NASCAR Cup Series race review of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Thank you guys for hanging out here on the channel. Please make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to Tim Reynolds Show for more NASCAR content throughout the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. And guys, what a race we had at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As we see, we had a first-time winner, not only for this season, but also for the first time in his Cup Series career. We would see Josh Berry, driver of the number 21 Ford for the Wood brothers, get the victory here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. His first ever career victory in the NASCAR Cup Series, and after 53 Cup Series starts, he finally makes his way to victory lane in a race where he's able to drive the famous number 21 Ford into victory lane for Ford Racing's first victory here in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Excuse me. And man, what a big victory it was for Josh Berry, who now proves that he belongs in the NASCAR Cup Series. And we also see one guy that believed in Josh Berry all along has been Junior Motorsports owner Dale Earnhardt Jr., who actually hired him as a driver for his Xfinity racing team, where he was able to take that Junior Motorsports to 5 victories in the Xfinity Series. So Josh Berry has already proved himself in NASCAR, but is yet to make it to victory lane in the Cup Series. But that all changed at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as he was able to get the victory there in the famous number 21 Ford. And meanwhile, Berry had to run down Daniel Suarez, driver of the number 99 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, following a restart with 19 laps remaining. And man, I tell you what, he was able to take control of this race after that. And although Harrison Burton won at Daytona this past summer for the Wood brothers, this is the first victory for the Wood brothers on a non-super speedway racetrack since Ryan Blaney was able to get the number 21 Ford into victory lane in 2017 at Pocono Raceway. So I tell you what, it's really nice to see Josh Berry prove that he is one of the better racers here at the NASCAR Cup Series level. And man, getting this number 21 team back in the playoffs, and I believe this is the first time since the NASCAR Cup Series came out with their playoff standings and the way the playoffs are seeding. And since they started the playoffs, this is actually the first time ever that we've seen the Wood brothers as a team make it to the playoffs in back-to-back years. So congratulations not only to the Wood brothers team, but also to the driver of the number 21 Ford, Josh Berry, on this huge victory here. The Wood brothers are celebrating their 75th season in NASCAR, one of the longest reigning teams in NASCAR's history, and this is their 101st victory in their organization's history, spanning over 20 drivers. Thank you everybody for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show. Don't forget guys to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, we've seen Suarez after the race says he was definitely a little disappointed. He thought he had the car to win the race here at Las Vegas, but he congratulates the number 21 team and Josh, who did a great job on the racetrack, and he says he's been fast lately, but they just haven't been able to get it done. But hey, a second place finish here for the number 99 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing is definitely a good finish for them. And we also see rounding out the top 5 here, we see Ryan Preece, driver of the number 60 Ford Mustang for RFK Racing, finishes 3rd. We also see William Byron, the Daytona 500 winner earlier this year, finishes 4th in his number 24 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, followed by Ross Chastain, driver of the number 1 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, as we see Trackhouse gets 2 of their 3 drivers to finish inside of the top 5, as we see Trackhouse Racing is definitely stepping up their game over the last few weeks, being very, very competitive. What's going on, Ethan? My favorite racer right now is Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Thanks for hanging out here, guys, for my 2025 NASCAR Cup Series race review of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and that race was crazy, man, as we see Josh Berry get his first career victory here in his 53rd career Cup Series start. And man, After that race where we've seen Ross Chastain rounds out the top 5, we also see Austin Cindric finishes 6th in his number 2 Ford Mustang for Team Penske, and also Alex Bowman finishes 7th in his number 48 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. We also see AJ Allmendinger helps round out the top 10 as he finishes 8th in his number 16 Chevrolet for Colleague Racing, and we also see Hendrick Motorsports driver Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott round out the top 10 as we see all 4 Hendrick Motorsports drivers finished inside the top 10, as we see Kyle Larson, driver of the number 5 Chevrolet, finishes 9th, and Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, finishes 10th. The Chevys were 7 of the top 10 drivers were Chevys in this race, so it was a very, very good competitive race. I thought the Chevys really standed out, even though a Ford Mustang ended up winning their first race of the year early on here in this 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. We see Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Ford for Penske Racing, had late control of this race until Las Vegas native Noah Gragson hit the wall with 25 laps remaining, which brought out the 9th caution flag of this race, and Barry was in second at the time of that caution and came out second behind Suarez on that restart. And in Barry's 53rd Cup race and just his 5th race with the Wood brothers, as he signed to this team during the offseason, and now with this team, the 34-year-old Tennessee driver was a 40-1 underdog here at this racetrack, but he puts a win in the column in his NASCAR Cup Series career for the Wood brothers and puts them back in the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive season. And man, with the tight alliance that the Wood brothers has with their number 21 Ford Racing team with Penske Racing, we could see Josh Berry and this number 21 Ford Racing team for the Wood brothers as legitimate contenders for the NASCAR Cup Series title here in 2025. But we'll have to see what happens. But congratulations to Josh Berry and the Wood brothers on this big victory here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. And guys, we also seen a lot of cautions, like we mentioned earlier, 9 cautions throughout this race, as we've seen a lot of drivers have some problems here, including Bell, who came to Las Vegas on a 3-race winning string. That's right, Christopher Bell, driver of the number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, had an opportunity to become the first driver since Jimmy Johnson, all the way back in 2007, to win 4 consecutive Cup races. But unfortunately, that streak of consecutive wins would end here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway after the throttle body of the number 20 Toyota for Christopher Bell failed, and unfortunately because of that he qualified 13th, and a penalty because he had to change that throttle body meant that he had to start in the back of the race, and unfortunately he was not able to recover. And we also seen Bell was complaining about the handling of his car for most of the race, even though he does finish with a 12th place here at this race. So congratulations to Christopher Bell. And we also mentioned the cautions earlier. Well, one of those guys bringing out a caution was Christopher Bell's teammate, Chase Briscoe, driver of the number 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, had a tire fall off during the race here, and unfortunately that means we will see his crew chief and a couple of pit crew members suspended for that loose tire and that tire coming off on the track. That's the rule mandated by NASCAR, so unfortunately they'll have to deal with some suspensions, as we see Chase Briscoe finish 17th here at this race. Then we also see Ty Gibbs struggling once again in his number 54 Toyota after he had an incident in the pits that unfortunately he got turned around by Carson Hocevar, or I believe another driver, and unfortunately that really just messed up his day here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He ended up finishing 22nd here in this one as well. And we also see Denny Hamlin, the other teammate for Joe Gibbs Racing, driver of the number 11 Toyota, unfortunately had also another bad luck of a day here at Las Vegas, finishing 25th in this race. And what an incredible race it was at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I really thought these drivers loved this track. This is almost a super speedway type racetrack for these NASCAR Cup Series drivers, and I really do think that they showed out here at this racetrack, and it was a very impressive victory. But man, seeing all the cautions and also a lot of tire problems with a lot of these pit crews, you would think they'd have this figured out a little bit now. But we also seen a lot of drivers like the number 48 Chevrolet driver Alex Bowman had to come in from 4th place in part of this race into the pits because he felt a vibration, which means he probably had a loose tire. And we've seen that for another handful of drivers having to make unscheduled pit stops because they felt like they had a loose tire or a tire was about to come off. We also seen Kyle Busch, the driver of the number 8 Chevrolet, had some bad luck on this track as well, as he lost a tire and unfortunately had to go back into the garage, and his day would be done here after a rough showing at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the number 8 Chevy racing team for RCR Racing. And now, with that tire coming off, we will now see more than likely that Richard Childress Racing's number 8 Chevy racing team will be without a couple more of their pit crew members and possibly their crew chief heading into next week, where we will be driving at Miami, Homestead Miami Super Speedway, or I should say Speedway. Man, this is an incredible flat track, a very, very fast track that a lot of the NASCAR Cup Series drivers really, really like, and I think we definitely are going to see one hell of a race here from the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series drivers here at Homestead Miami Speedway. And guys, we have seen that this racetrack has been in the playoff rotation the last 3 years and now has been moved to a spring race where we've seen Tyler Reddick won last October and Christopher Bell that is, won in 2023. So we could see Tyler Reddick, driver of the number 45 Toyota for 2311 Racing, could be a serious contender for this race at Homestead Miami Speedway. But we also could see Christopher Bell, who's already won 3 races this season, be a legitimate contender at this racetrack in his number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's been fast at just about every racetrack that we've been at, and besides a few mistakes and mishaps here because of what's happened with the pits and what's been happening to his car, Christopher Bell has been able to compete at every single racetrack that we've been at. So I would expect this to continue, and Christopher Bell will still be a serious contender here at Homestead Miami Speedway. And some other guys maybe to look at here that could be serious contenders here at Homestead Miami Speedway. We could see Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, also races pretty good here at Miami. And we also see Kyle Larson is definitely a guy to watch out for. Unfortunately, last year he had a big mistake and a mishap where he ended up running into the water barrier trying to get into the pits. So you know Kyle Larson's going to hope to redeem himself after that big mistake last season when they were at Miami Homestead Speedway. And guys, how about the NASCAR Cup Series this season? I mean, it seems like more than ever, we're starting to see such a diverse and talented field of drivers here, more so than I think we've ever seen. A lot of guys are really close to competing thus far this year, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Excuse me. As we all watch the Wood Brothers, Josh Berry and the Wood Brothers celebrate their underdog victory at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, one thing kept swirling around that was definitely on the minds of, I feel, of a lot of NASCAR fans out there, and that was, is this the most talented and diverse group of drivers that we've ever seen in NASCAR? I don't know if I'm able to go that far, but it does beg the question, is this the most talented group of drivers that we've ever seen in a NASCAR Cup Series race? I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But man, I really do think that NASCAR is on the up and up. I really do think that we're going to start seeing a lot of these younger drivers really show off the talent that they have. And I'm telling you, man, this might be the most talented NASCAR Cup Series group of drivers or garage that we've ever seen before. But I tell you what, before we try to answer that, I am going to tell you that back in 1974, we were still newly named the Winston Cup Series. And it ran 30 races with which all of them were won by either Richard Petty, Cale Harborough, Dave Pearson, or Bobby Allison. And man, I tell you what, when you see a lot more drivers winning in the NASCAR Cup Series, that makes it a lot better for fans. Seeing the same guy win over and over again sometimes can be pretty old for a lot of NASCAR fans. And I tell you this because I was not a big fan of Jimmy Johnson when he was racing. Much respect, one of the best drivers in NASCAR Cup Series, but man, watching him win where it felt like every single week, it was like, what are the other teams not doing to be able to compete at the same level that Hendrick Motorsports and this number 48 Chevrolet racing team were able to compete at, especially when Jimmy Johnson was in the era where we were having a new prototype racing car? It felt like every single year, and every single year, Jimmy Johnson and Hendrick Motorsports proved that they were contenders every single year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I tell you what, I really do think that this could be the most diverse and best group of race car drivers that we have ever seen in NASCAR. But man, we'll have to wait to see what happens and anticipate the fact that this weekend, Homestead Miami Speedway, 25 of those 205 winners, a whopping 12%, will be on the grid. And 25 of all those 6 Cup Series champions, 7 Daytona 500 winners, in my estimation, at least 7 no-brainer NASCAR Hall of Famers will put on the helmet here as we head into Homestead Miami Speedway, as we see possibly Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Danny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano. All of these guys are future NASCAR Hall of Famers, which means NASCAR Cup Series is in good hands right now, especially with the up-and-coming drivers like we've seen from William Byron, driver of the number 24 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, Christopher Bell, driver of the number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Drivers like this who are on the up-and-up and are definitely bringing a lot more eyes to the sport than we've ever seen before. And we've still seen some young guns who have yet to prove themselves, you know. We have guys like, Carson Hocevar, driver of the number 77 Chevrolet, could be a serious contender as we head forward. And also Ty Gibbs, he's only 22 years old, even though he is struggling right now in his number 54 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. But the sport's in very, very good hands, and I really do think that we're going to start seeing the sport of NASCAR really take it to another level, especially heading into Homestead Miami Speedway, where we should see one hell of a race for the NASCAR Cup Series season. And now, guys, we'll get to some news and notes from Miami as we get ready for this race this upcoming weekend. It should be one hell of a race. And now we've had 6 races with 6 different pole winners here, as we see Alex Bowman, driver of the number 48 Chevrolet, has won the pole for Homestead Miami Speedway, and an excellent job for the number 48 Chevrolet racing team for Hendrick Motorsports. As we see the rest of Hendrick Motorsports and the way they've qualified, William Byron, driver of the number 24 Chevrolet, qualified 5th. We also see that Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, qualifies 18th. And we see Kyle Larson, driver of the number 5 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, qualifies 14th here for Homestead Miami Speedway. And now NASCAR legitimately loves this track. It's going to be a great racetrack. I think it's one of the better racetracks throughout the NASCAR Cup Series season. But to give you guys the starting grid here, we see Josh Berry is the second fastest in qualifying, coming off of that victory last week. He is in a very, very fast race car in that number 21 Ford for the Wood Brothers, as Josh Berry qualifies second on the front row for Homestead Miami Speedway. And we see in row number 2, Noah Grayson, driver of the number 4 Ford Mustang, will qualify in the 3rd position here in row 2. We also see Chase Briscoe, driver of the number 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, qualifies 4th, and he will be on the 2nd row here after qualifying at Homestead Miami Speedway. We see in row 3, William Byron, like we mentioned before, will qualify in 5th, and that's where he will start in his number 24 Chevrolet on row number 3. And next to him in position number 6, qualified 6th, is Ryan Blaney, driver of the number 12 Ford Mustang for Penske Racing. A nice qualifying effort there for Ryan Blaney, who ends up on row number 3. John Hunter Nemechek starts out row number 4 in the 7th place position, where he qualified for his number 42 Toyota for Legacy Motor Club. A nice qualifying effort here for John Hunter Nemechek. And we also see another Penske Racing driver. We see Austin Cindric, driver of the number 2 Ford Mustang, qualifies on row number 4 in the 8th position here for Homestead Miami Speedway. And in row number 5, we see Bubba Wallace, driver of the number 23 Toyota for 2311 Racing, qualifies here in row number 5 for the number 23 Toyota. And we see rounding out the top 10 here in row number 5 is AJ Allmendinger, driver of the number 16 Chevrolet. A good qualifying effort here for his number 16 Chevrolet racing team for Colgate Racing. And man, a good qualifying set of drivers here. We've seen a lot of drivers really trying to push it here in qualifying and in practice, including Tyler Reddick, who is really riding that wall. We've seen a lot of drivers here in qualifying early on in Homestead really trying to stay up high on that wall or using the very, very low part of the track to try to get some grip and some speed. But we'll have to see how this battle shapes out when the NASCAR Cup Series goes racing at Homestead Miami Speedway. And thank you guys so much for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show for this NASCAR race review for the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and a little bit of a preview for you guys as the NASCAR Cup Series heads to my Homestead Miami Speedway this upcoming weekend. And guys, please make sure you tune in to Tim Reynolds Show for my live play-by-play for the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series race at Homestead Miami Speedway. It's going to be one heck of a race. Thank you guys so much for hanging out here on the channel. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Tim Reynolds Show. Thank you, racing fans. Thank you, NASCAR fans. And make sure you guys tune in to Tim Reynolds Show's YouTube channel for more NASCAR content throughout the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season and more right here on one of the most electrifying and entertaining sports entertainment channels on all of YouTube. This is Tim Reynolds Show. Let's fucking go. Thank you, racing fans. Thank you, NASCAR fans. Make sure you guys hit me up in the comments and let me know what you guys think of this NASCAR race review, and tune in for more NASCAR race reviews right here on Tim Reynolds Show on my YouTube channel. Don't forget, guys, to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and sign up for memberships as well. Shout out to my wife in the chat. Thank you, baby. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in here on Tim Reynolds Show. Peace out, everybody. Have a great day, and let's go racing, boys, as NASCAR goes racing at Homestead Miami Speedway. And we're going to do it all. We're going to check it all out here live on Tim Reynolds Show for my live play-by-play for the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Peace out, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend.